My name is Janet Jackson, and I've lived in West Hartford since the fall of 1977. My husband, Jim Jackson, and I moved to Connecticut from New Rochelle, New York, with our 4 daughters when he accepted a position with Connecticut General Insurance Company, now known as Cigna. We chose West Hartford specifically because it had an excellent school system where 3 of our children would go as our oldest headed off to college. The proximity of West Hartford to Connecticut General was also perfect. I had recently earned my master's in social work at NYU and had worked only 1 year before moving to West Hartford. Almost immediately, I landed a job at the Village for Families and Children and began a career that ended up spanning almost 30 years. During that time, I earned the title of Vice President and became the first African American female to hold this position in the 200-year-old history of the organization. After I was hired at the Village, I earned my first leadership role as the Director of Adoption. In this position, I successfully tripled the number of children placed in permanent adoptive homes by obtaining both state and federal grants. These grants provided resources necessary to increase both staff and therefore the number of adoptive homes for children with special needs. It's important to note that during this time, all African American children were considered to be special needs because of the color of their skin. For Caucasian children, special needs meant physical, mental, or emotional challenges. One of the proudest moments in my career occurred in 2004, when I received the Village's highly coveted Champion of Children Award for my outstanding achievements in the area of special needs adoption, intensive family preservation, therapeutic mentoring, and my diversity manager role. Since retiring, I have continued my community contributions by participating in several professional social work organizations, the Farmington Valley chapter of LINCS, where I'm an organizing member, the Witness Stone Advisory Committee that you're all familiar with, WASCO, the West Hartford African American Social Cultural Organization, whose members initiated the first Martin Luther King celebration and continue to stress cultural, community, and advocacy issues relevant to African Americans. I'm a member of the historic Union Baptist Church in Hartford, where I'm proud to serve as the second ordained female deacon in the church's long history. This position in the Black church was normally reserved for men only. Finally, I'm an officer in Lee Humphrey Properties, LLC, a small family-owned business that my daughters and I created. I decided to respond to the question, what do you think about when you hear Black History Month? To be perfectly honest, when I think about Black History Month, I feel disappointment and frustration. I've had these feelings for a long time, and I'm sure I'm not alone. The concept of allocating 1 month out of the year to acknowledge centuries of extremely important contributions by African Americans in so many arenas strikes me as disingenuous and a perpetuation of ongoing racial inequities. How can 1 month be enough to pay tribute for all the blood, sweat, and tears that Black people, my people, have given to build and sustain these United States of America? It's as if a huge ongoing war has just been won against all odds, and yet for some of a darker hue like me, who have battled valiantly alongside everyone else, there's only the slight hint of a nod or a wink of the eye meant to just barely acknowledge the hard-won victory. In spite of my negative reaction, when I hear Black History Month, I still believe that there is some promise. I see promise in the election of the Biden-Harris ticket. President Biden is giving top priority to correcting systemic racial inequities. Vice President Kamala Harris is the first female, the first African American, and the first Asian American in the history of this country. I see promise in the Georgia senatorial election because the first African American and the first Jewish candidate in the state's history were elected. I see promise in young people from all racial backgrounds marching together chanting, "Black Lives Matter." I've worked diligently and hard during my career. Now I'm ready to pass the torch. In order to be successful, I encourage you all to be informed, educate yourself, and seek knowledge. I pray that you too will see the promise and, as my grandchildren say, stay woke.